Hey yogis, what is up? It's Tali here from the Yoga Transformative, and we are going to be breaking down the side crow, a really fun balance for you guys today. Side crow is essentially kind of the twisted sister of crow pose, bakasana, and that is because it's an arm balance just like crow with a twist. So we're going to be breaking down the key components that we really need to focus on to be able to access the pose, parsva bakasana, side crow. And I think we can break these down into, let's say, 3 different parts. 1, hand alignment. As with all arm balances and inversions, we want to make sure that our hands, which are what we're standing on, are really solid so that we have safe wrists and really strong hands that do all the work for us. We also need to be able to access that arm balance shape, which generally involves quite a bit of upper body engagement. So we want to make sure our triceps, our shoulders are firing up, our core is nice and engaged. And then thirdly, we need to make sure we can twist, because again, side crow is a twisted arm balance. So we want to make sure that we can really get the best out of it by starting to twist through the upper body a little bit more. So we're going to be breaking down those 3 elements in this video today. Number 1 is hands, right? So we want to make sure that our hands are really stable and solid, because they're our foundation when we move into any arm balance, from crow pose all the way up to handstands, right? So we're going to get set up first of all in tabletop, really nice and foundational, because this literally does allow us to create this foundation that we're looking for with our arms, with our hands. So fun tip, if you have tightness in your shoulders or your wrists, then explore how it feels to have your first finger, your index finger facing forwards. I just learned this recently, and it is a game changer for my hand balancing life, because I find that it really helps to keep my upper arm bones sparring open so we don't round through our shoulders, no internal engagement and rotation, And then we also have a little bit more kindness on the wrists. If your wrists and shoulders are happy enough, and see how it feels for middle finger facing forwards, which is more traditional. But again, if you're like me, tightness shoulders or wrists, just try having your fingers turned out slightly so that it's your index finger that faces forwards. And really, wherever you are, spread your fingers as wide as you can. I want you to think about gripping the mat with all of your finger pads. So all of the tips of your fingers, if they're turning white a little bit, you know you're doing it right, okay? So we really want to almost be clawing the mat with our fingertips. At the same time, can you anchor down your base knuckles? These are the knuckles that are closest to your palm, right? I really want you to think about pressing down, especially the index finger knuckle and the base of your thumb. So the inside of your hand, these 2 base knuckles are really grounded. And again, check in with your fingertips. So if your arms are feeling like they're starting to warm up a bit, maybe your wrists, maybe your hands, that's a little bit of work, okay? Especially for the forearms too. If your wrists aren't warm enough yet, I would definitely recommend checking out my wrist mobility video that went live just before this one. It's fantastic to really warm up the wrist, keep our hands nice and healthy. So if you want to go back to that one and then come to this video next, you're so welcome to, and meet you right where you're at now when you're ready. But otherwise, with our hands spread, fingers spread wide, finger pads pressing down, base knuckles anchored, really thinking, pressing the mat away from you with your palms. And can you start to squeeze your forearms towards each other as well? You may feel your pecs start to engage, and this is great because we're really starting to work the muscles that we really need to keep engaged and switched on when we move into our balances, right? So from this rather fiery hand and arm alignment, I'm going to make our way through a couple of cat-cows. So on your breath in, tilt your tailbone towards the sky, roll your shoulders back a little so your heart can draw forwards, chest forwards. And then even in this pose, can you think? Forearms squeezing towards each other, anchoring down your finger pads, your base knuckles. Don't lose your hand alignment. And take a slow breath out, Keep pressing your hands down. Start to round the back into cat. Chin to chest. Keep pressing your forearms towards each other. Squeeze. And at the same time, base knuckles grounded. Finger pads grounded. Can you find your core here? Draw your lower ribs in towards each other, in towards the midline, right? Start to fire up to the core, the TBA especially. And then here is where we're starting to get a lot of engagement, right? I can actually see my forearms shaking a little bit because I'm really firing this up, really working hard. Let's do that one more time. Keep the forearms squeezing towards each other. Inhale, cow pose. Gentle back bend, chest forwards through the gate with your arms. And exhale, round to cat. And come back slowly to kneeling or seated, whatever feels good in your body today. And yeah, so that's our hand alignment. Again, arm balances of all kinds, we are literally balancing on our hands. We want to make sure that they're really solid, stable, because they're the things that are going to be working really hard. Next up, we're actually going to be looking at the twist just now. So in twists, what we really want to do is what our body tries to do to make it easier for us is to twist the hips as well, right? So for example, if you're in a twisted chair pose, like a prayer twist, just to show you what I mean, when we start to twist towards the right, you see how the tendency is for your right knee to go back to and your left knee to come forward. And that's because we want our body's like, yeah, let's twist from the hips. Our lower back is so much more flexible rather than our upper back. But our upper back was actually designed for rotation, right? So we want to start to bring some of that rotational ability back to our upper spine, our thoracic spine. Living our lives at a desk, on our phone, really start to stiffen up our upper back. And so we want to make sure that we're getting some of that rotational ability back, happy spines and happy twists. So one of my favorite twists at the moment is, you can do this seated or kneeling, by the way, whatever feels good for you. Cross-legged, standing if you prefer, though that makes it requires a little bit more focus for our hips not to come with us. So if you're seated or kneeling, our hips are a bit more fixed. Bring your arms out in front of you, thumbs up. Arms are about in line with your shoulders. And engage your core so we're not trying to flare out our ribs or have a little tilt back of our tailbone. We want to keep quite engaged to our core, right? So lower back is fairly flat, nice and neutral. And we're starting to fire up our core. So again, join your lower ribs in towards the midline. From here, we're slowly going to bend your right elbow and try and bring your right elbow as far back behind you towards the right as you can. A little arrow and bow or something, I think it's called bow and arrow. Yeah, that sounds more right. But you're going to see, again, that your right hip's going to want to come with you a little bit. Try and make sure you're twisting from the midsection of your torso rather than from the hips. So core stays engaged, twisting to the right. Come back through center, take a breath in. And exhale, twist to the left. So the same, bend your left elbow, press it back far as you can. Core stays engaged. I'm just going to keep moving like that. So every breath in, coming through center. Every breath out, twisting right. And then over to the left on the next exhale. And you're going to probably notice more than likely on one side is a little tighter than the other, a little bit stiffer. No, for me it's definitely my left side. The joys of being left-handed, wearing a handbag on my left shoulder for far too long. Just loads of different things in our life can have an impact on what side we're better at twisting than the other. So one more time on the left. Coming back. And next up, start to wake up our arms a little bit. Arms and shoulders, right? So starting to fire to the triceps, the back of our arms. Because when we are in quite a few different arm balance shapes, we are going to have our elbows bent as we would for chaturanga, okay? So elbows about 90. Again, as always, in our chaturanga, you want to be thinking elbows stacked on top of your wrists and shoulders forwards relative to that, okay? So let's come into downward facing dog. So bring your hands forwards. Again, if it's feeling good for you to place your index finger forward rather than your middle finger, then go for it. But regardless, still thinking fingers spread wide, grip down the mat with your finger pads, press down your base knuckles, especially your first finger and the base of your thumb. Starting to straighten your legs, lifting your hips up and back. Have a pace out. This is your first down dog today, or the first one in a while. Get some movement going, but keep your hands pressing down. Really trying to think about lengthening from your hips to your wrists. And squeeze, turn your biceps forward so like the fronts of your elbows are facing in or forwards a little bit. And then you can squeeze your forearms towards each other. Feel that arm activation? Good, me too. Take a slow breath in here. And a slow breath out. Just round forwards to plank pose, breathe in. Really start to think about rounding forwards. I love to teach a really high plank. So really think about how much can you draw your shoulder blades away from each other here, right? How much can you round through your upper back? Can you fire up your core? Pull your lower ribs in towards each other. Can you eat your knuckles? Because I definitely am right now. Can you squeeze your forearms towards each other? Can you think how much can you almost donut, concave out your front body, like trying to lift your chest as far away from them as you can. Take a slow breath in here. Exhale, downward facing dog. And plank is one of those great poses that really builds us so much strength that we need through our arms, our core, our glutes, our back body. Just really fantastic for strengthening. And I don't think it ever gets easier because we just get to add on more layers. So let's slowly again, round forwards. Lift your heels, maybe do a spinal roll if that feels good. Take a breath in. Exhale, downward facing dog. Adding on the chaturanga, let's take an inhale, round forwards, or looking forwards at the last. Shoulders maybe coming a little bit further forward than your wrist if that feels good. Squeeze your forearms towards each other, bend your elbows, use your knees if you need. And then upward facing dog. Tuck your toes under. Roll your shoulders forward. Engage your glutes, chest forward. Downward facing dog. Slowly breathe out. Come down to your knees. My yoga students always tell me that most of the time when I'm teaching them entry points for a pose, the actual preps for this are harder than the actual pose. So if that gives you some peace of mind, then that's good. I will always really make sure that everything's firing up as it should. So maybe when we move into side crow, you'd be like, this is a bruise. But regardless, let's play around with crow pose for a moment in normal, conventional, traditional bakasana. So for our crow pose, I like to start with the feet touching, just because I generally like to have the big toes touching when we're ultimately in the pose. So starting here can make it actually easier than having you start with your feet wider. Let's spread your fingers wide, bringing your hands down to the mat, shoulder width. Again, you choose your hand alignment. See what feels good in your body. Middle finger, first finger facing forward, whatever works for you. Have a play around, explore that. Start to bring your knees, again, for this one, just the backs of your arms. So kind of just above your elbows. Then lean forwards. When you're ready, you can see we're starting to come into this chaturanga shape. Can you squeeze your forearms towards each other? Press down your finger pads. Press down your index finger knuckle, base knuckle, and the joint of your thumb. Can you lift one foot? Can you stay looking forwards a little bit? Front the other. Come up. Ooh, balance is fun today. And then you'll notice that your hands will always kind of be dancing a little bit in this pose. Keeping you upright, right? Come back down when you're ready. So in crow, or any hand balance, you'll find that when you start to lean forwards a little bit too much, your finger pads are your brakes. Or your finger pads are your brake pads. So when you start to lean too far forward, instead of falling on your face, press down into your finger pads, and that'll shift your weight back. And then vice versa. Feel yourself leaning back too far, like your feet are going to come down. Bring more weight into your finger pads, and that'll help you. So if you want to repeat that variation of crow pose, go for it. And I'm going to show you the other one. This is where we want the knees, I still like them on the triceps, so like on the outsides of your arms, quite high up. So the higher up you're going to get your knees, the more of a balance it's going to be. The lower down, your feet are going to be lower to the floor, and it might feel a little bit more stable. So your choice. But either way, start to think, knees the outsides of your arms towards your triceps, so squeeze your knees in towards your upper arms, and then press your upper arms in towards your knees. So you can do this with no hands. You're going to feel that squeezing in, that squeezing out. Your knees aren't going to go anywhere, right? And then keep your knees, go loose your arms. Then bring your hands down. Maybe a little bit further in than where we were before for that lower crow. There we go, low crow, high crow. Let's call this high crow. Spread your fingers wide. You see how I'm lifting my hips a little bit here. Rather than hips to heels, my hips a little higher. Rounding through your back. Think like cat, right? Think like plank, how you want to really round, okay? And then from this shape, you'll be able to find your core and find that idea of rounding, lifting your feet if you want. If that's part of your practice, coming down. Play around with this. Take a couple more breaths here in this high bakasana. Let's roll with that. Again, look slightly further forwards. Breathe. Let your hands do their dance. Finger pads will stop you going too far forwards. Wrists will stop you going too far back. Coming down when you're ready. Take a break if you need. Let's do this. I'm going to make our way into what's probably a really traditional and regularly taught way to access side crow, and that is coming into it from chair pose. The very least is going to stay fiery, right? So in chair pose, you can have your big toes touching, an inch or two between your heels. Your feet can be hip width. See what feels good in your body. I'm going to bend your knees, sink your hips down and back. Make sure you can see your big toes. Bring your fingertips to the earth. Make sure you can still see your big toes. Knees pressing back, hips pressing back, arms up. And here we are, chair. Now can you have that slight tuck of your pelvic bowl? So thinking less of a back bend in our lower back, right? Sticking that booty out a little less. Tuck your tailbone, find your core. Pull your lowers in towards each other. No. Still fiery. Let's take a slow breath in. Hands to your heart. Breathe out. Again, make sure that your core is still engaged. That slight tuck of your pelvic bowl. We're going to cross your left elbow over your right knee. Okay? So, depending on how far you can get your left elbow over your right knee, it will depend on whether your side crow is going to be more like the crow just above your elbow or the crow high up on your triceps. Does not matter either way. See what feels good in your body. So hands stay connected. Forearms are one long straight line. So we're not thinking elbows towards each other. Thinking about pressing your hands in towards each other. So you can really start to press your upper body towards the right? So starting to twist. Forearms are one long straight line. Palms are pressing in, almost a lever. So help us spiral our upper body towards the right a little bit more. That's a twist. Can you look down at your knees? I can see right now, my left knee is further forwards than my right, because my right hip's trying to help me do the twist. Do the twist. We're not going to work that. We're going to think. Knees are in line. We're using our upper back to help us twist. We're going to bring your hips down towards your heels really slowly. Legs will stay active. Stay in the twist. Left elbow stays over your right knee. You need to adjust a little and go for it. Should add as well. Heels will lift unless your Achilles are crazy long. I'm going to assume that 99.9% of us will have our heels lifted right now. So, setting up the side crow. Left elbow stays crossed over your right knee. And start to bring your left hand, down to the mat. It's going to be a little tiny alignment shift. Turn your toes. They're currently pointing towards the top of your mat. Turn them a little bit towards the right corner of your mat. The top still is a little bit out, 30, 40 degrees tops. So stay in the twist, right? So even though you're twisting, or turning your knees, I should say, make sure your upper back, make sure your upper body is still twisted. Left hand's going to come down. Right hand's going to come down. Kind of shoulder width away from your left hand, okay? Stay with the twist. Upper body is strong. Core is engaged. Arms are strong. Hands are down onto the mat. Let's play for a moment by just leaning a little bit into that left arm. So, kind of cheaty way to do side crow is to bring your right hip to your right elbow. So you can do that if you need, but I'd really suggest that you try and have your right arm there for stability, while your left hand is here with all of the strength, okay? So keep that twist. I'm going to lean to the right. Come up onto your toes if you can. Look forwards. Maybe your feet will start to lift over towards the top of your mat. Keep pressing down into both palms, finger pads, index finger knuckle. Come down when you're ready. Now side crow. So thinking hands shoulder width, but they're kind of at an angle on your mat. So diagonal rather than being like vertical or horizontal according to the long short edges of your mat. And just to revisit that again. Look forwards or look to the left, whatever feels good to move into that twist. So again, spring your feet hip width or kind of big toes touch space in your heels, whatever, again, feels great in your body. There's no right or wrong there. Bend your knees, quads feeling fired up, good, mine too. Fingertips down, hips press back, slight tilt of your pelvic bowl as you start to reach your arms up. Find your core, find your breath. Hands to your heart, move maybe a little bit quicker this time, now that we know where we're going. So again, tuck of your pelvic bone, reminder for me, just as much as you, lean forwards, cross your right elbow this time over your left knee. Knees stay in line, so as we start to twist, I want you to actually look down to your knees as you start to turn your upper body towards the left. Maybe your left knee will be going back, your right will be coming forwards, and challenge that. Try and allow both knees to be in line. Engage your core, encouraging this twist from the midsection of your torso rather than from the lower back and your pelvis. You can look over your left shoulder, not necessary. That makes you feel a bit wobbly. And start to drop your hips to your heels. Again, lifting your heels more than likely. And stay in the twist. Alright. Let's bring your left knee a little higher up your right arm if you need. Right hand to the mat. Turn your knees a little bit towards, just still facing the top of your mat. That'll be the top left. So just that kind of like 40-degree twist of the legs. Hands stay down. Right hand is grounded. Left hand comes down about 45 degrees away. No, about shoulder width, right? So hands are about shoulder width. What am I saying? Start to lean forward. Again, we're thinking, keep the twist. Alright, so start off, spine our feet, find our hands. Stay on your tiptoes, or starting to lift up. But again, we're having that shift forwards and kind of lifting our legs up. Feet are going to be towards the right. And look towards the right. If that feels good, look forwards. If that feels better, I'm having hand alignment issues over here on the wall. So, lifting up. If that feels good, let your hands work. Come back down when you're ready. Can have a play with that. Press pause. Play around some more if you want. Come to the spine, seated, or again, whatever way works for you when you feel ready. This is your practice, so feel free to keep playing around with that side crow shape if you want. Otherwise, get yourself nice and comfy. Turn your palms to face up on your knees or your thighs, your lap. Just looking at your hands and being grateful for all of the strength that they have just offered. The ability to balance on your hands is not something we should ever just take for granted, right? And how incredible is that? Stand on our hands. I'm just giving thanks, not only to your hands, but also to the whole of your body, to your mind, because it takes just as much mental strength as it does physical to start to balance in these ways. Bring your hands to touch in front of your heart, giving gratitude now to the practice of yoga, teaching us that everything in life is practice. We can find joy in the practice. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this class. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit subscribe. There's going to be lots more videos, lots more content. Hope to see you guys soon. For now, thank you. Namaste.